Welcome to my channel, I'm Gary Wiryawan, and today I want to talk about all of my Micro Four Thirds camera gear, my cameras, my lenses that I brought for a trip to New Zealand. Let's go! So I just recently went back from New Zealand and it was really wonderful. I really needed that trip, and in today's video I want to share my experience, my observation of using my Micro Four Thirds cameras and lenses when I was in New Zealand. Which camera gear works, which camera gear doesn't work, that kind of thing. By the end of this video, I hope you will get a better understanding about travel photography, especially in New Zealand, both in terms of the process of photography itself and also of the camera gears. By the way, I recorded so many vlogs from New Zealand, specifically photography vlogs. I'm doing a POV kind of tutorial where I try to explain to you how I take some pictures, and you can watch those vlogs up here. I will put a link on the card above. Now first I want to talk about New Zealand itself. What to expect about New Zealand, specifically in terms of photography. What will you find right there? Well, you will find lots of ships, that's for sure. But joking aside, you will find lots of great sceneries, specifically mountains, lakes and trees and all that kind of stuff. It's a very nature-oriented destination, and that means landscape photography, scenery photography, and that kind of stuff. If you are traveling with a family member or a friend, like what I do, I'm traveling with my wife and also with a friend of mine. You will also want to take some portraits of your family members or your friend. I definitely took a lot of portraits of my wife and also of my friends as well. And that means in terms of camera gear, you will have to be able to cover anything from wide angle all the way to telephoto in your New Zealand trip. So for my personal gear, I brought two cameras with me. One is a Panasonic G85 and one is a Panasonic GX85. And I also brought three lenses. One is a wide angle lens, Panasonic Leica 8 to 18mm, f2.8 to f4. And then one is a telephoto lens. This is the Panasonic Lumix 35mm to 100mm, f4 to f5.6. And the third lens is the Panasonic Lumix 20mm f1.7. By the way, you can check out the reasoning of why I brought those three lenses before I went on the trip to New Zealand. You can check that video up here. But now in today's video, I want to share you my observation, not my thought before I went on the trip, but my thought after I went on the trip. First, I want to talk about the cameras and lenses as a whole. These cameras and lenses, they are all Micro Four Thirds gear. And with Micro Four Thirds, I was able to reduce weight when I was packing these cameras and lenses. And that's one of the benefits of using Micro Four Thirds camera system. You can save weight, and for travel where your carry-on weight is only limited to 7 kilograms, using Micro Four Thirds really makes a lot of sense right here. And I'm really happy I'm using Micro Four Thirds cameras and lenses. And that's not the only benefit of Micro Four Thirds. Image quality is still also really good with Micro Four Thirds, although it uses smaller sensor compared to full frame cameras. By the way, you can check the video above about the other benefits why I use Micro Four Thirds camera. Check it out above. Speaking of the total weight of my cameras and lenses, again, I brought two cameras with me and three lenses, and they all weigh less than 1.5 kilograms. That means I still have about 5.5 kilograms for my clothes, for my toiletries, for my electronics, that kind of stuff in my carry-on baggage. Anyway, I want to talk about the cameras first. As I mentioned before, I brought two cameras with me to New Zealand. One is the Panasonic G85, not this guy right here. This is actually a Panasonic GX8. This is just as an illustration, so I have something in my hand that I can show to you. And the other camera is the Panasonic GX85. First, I want to talk about the G85 because that's my primary camera, meaning that this is the camera that I used the most when I was in New Zealand. There are many reasons why I chose the Panasonic G85 as my main camera in New Zealand. First, it's because the manual controls in the Panasonic G85 is just perfect. I can easily change all kinds of settings in this camera easily, from exposure compensation and changing aperture, shutter speed and ISO and all that kind of settings that will help me to make the perfect exposure in camera. It's just so nice to have it in the Panasonic G85. And although I shot mostly in aperture priority, I still really appreciate the ability to change some manual settings. And then besides the controls, I also really enjoy the weather sealing of that camera. The Panasonic G85 is weather sealed, so it's ready for all kinds of weather in New Zealand. So anything from sunny days to rainy days to windy days, with the Panasonic G85, I'm covered in terms of weather. And then besides that, it also has this nice flipping articulating screen that really helped me to compose some difficult vertical composition landscape shots that I really do a few times when I was in New Zealand. And then also the image quality, although this camera features only a 16 megapixel sensor, the image quality is actually really nice. I will show you some pictures right now so you can really take a look at those pictures and tell me if it's good or not. I personally think those pictures look really nice, the colors are nice, and they are really sharp because there's no AA filter on the sensor. So yeah, image quality is a big part, and even though it's only a Micro Four Thirds sensor, I still think the image quality looks nice. Next camera is the Panasonic Lumix GX85, this little guy right here. So if the Panasonic G85 is my main camera, the GX85 is actually my secondary camera. And with the GX85, I will usually have a telephoto lens to cover the wide angle lens on the G85 that is my main camera and my main lens. So I can get two focal lengths at the same time. With the GX85, the image quality is virtually identical with the G85 because the sensor is actually the same. No AA filter, 16 megapixel. Manual control is not as great as the G85 because we're missing a few dials and a few buttons, but it's not a big problem. I can still use it easily. I can still change settings easily with this camera. And the grip, although not as good as the G85, it makes up with lighter weight and smaller camera, so it's easier to pack inside my carry-on luggage. And also it still has this articulating screen. You can kind of tilt it up and down, but you cannot really flip it in front, so it is still useful for low angle shots sometimes. And besides that, I really enjoy using the GX85. As a matter of fact, if I'm visiting another location, another destination that is not as photo heavy as the New Zealand, then I will probably just bring the GX85 and a few lenses if I don't really need to be serious about photography in that location. Speaking about recording video, both the Panasonic G85 and the GX85 perform really well in terms of recording B-rolls when I was in New Zealand. I was able to record smooth and crispy and nice looking video footage with both of these cameras, and thankfully both of these cameras also have in-body stabilizer, so they can really record shake-free, vibration-free B-rolls that looks really smooth, nice, and just very pleasant to look at. The Panasonic G85 actually is a little bit superior when it comes to video compared to the GX85. It has audio input, so you can use external microphone with this camera. The GX85 doesn't have that ability. However, if you only need to record B-rolls, I think the GX85 is more than enough for that. Now let's talk about lenses. But before we talk about lenses, first I want to show you some statistics that I got from New Zealand. I wrote it down right here. So my trip in New Zealand was 12 days, and then overall I took 3,243 pictures using both my Panasonic G85 and GX85 with the 8 to 18mm lens as well as the 35 to 100mm f4 to f5.6 lens. And out of those 3,243 pictures, 1,241 pictures are actually my keepers. So I have a hit rate of about 38%. And out of those 1,241 pictures, 795 was taken using the 8 to 18mm lens. So that's about 64% with this lens right here. And the rest with the 35 to 100mm, I took about 445 pictures. That is about 36%. So the majority of my keeper pictures are taken using this lens right here, the 8 to 18mm Panasonic Leica f2.8 to f4. As I mentioned earlier, New Zealand is all about nature, all about sceneries, all about landscape photography, so a wide angle lens makes a lot of sense right here, especially if you want to capture that beautiful wide sceneries using wide angle lens, and also if you want to try to compose something with a nice foreground of interest. This is your opportunity right here. New Zealand provides you with a lot of those kinds of pictures. The 8 to 18mm lens right here goes from 8mm ultra wide angle focal length all the way to 18mm normal wide focal length. And 8mm is actually plenty wide in New Zealand. You don't really need this wide, and usually I'll end up zooming a little bit to about 9 or 10mm, or sometimes I even use the 18mm if I want something more focused and more tighter. Besides the focal lengths, there are other things that I love about the Panasonic Leica 8 to 18mm lens. First, the aperture. It goes to f2.8 at 8mm. So if you encounter Milky Way or if you want to do night photography using this lens, you can actually do a little bit of low light situation using the 8 to 18mm. Next thing that I love about this lens is also that this is weather sealed. So combined together with the Panasonic G85, you can handle all kinds of weather that you will encounter in New Zealand with that combination of camera and lens. And image quality, undoubtedly with the Leica branding, it's just so sharp, so nice. Colors are really beautiful and it's contrasty, it's very punchy. I just really love the Panasonic Leica lens. Autofocus and performance of this lens are also great. The autofocus is really nice and snappy and quite accurate as well. Now the next lens, the Panasonic 35 to 100mm f4 to f5.6, is something that really surprised me when I was in New Zealand. This taught me a lot of lessons and I actually really enjoyed using this lens. As I mentioned earlier, I only took about 445 pictures out of 1241 pictures. That's about 36% using this lens. However, those 36% really means a lot to me because it's actually an education for me, something new. It really opens my eye of some new possibility of using telephoto lens for landscape photography. So with a telephoto lens for landscape photography, I was forced to simplify my image. I need to focus only on a small part of a scenery and try to make that composition interesting without using foreground of interest or whatever. But I am really surprised with the results that I got from this lens. Usually with wide angle lens for landscape photography, you'll have to come up with a nice foreground of interest, and then you also need a strong subject and a beautiful kind of background. But with this lens, you don't have that obligation and you can really simplify things and make your image look stronger. And I really love it. This is something new for me and I think this is a really nice opportunity for me to really study about using telephoto lens as opposed to just using wide angle for landscape photography. Now speaking about the lens itself, it doesn't have the same build quality like the Panasonic Leica 8 to 18mm. This actually feels cheaper and also the build quality is just not as robust and it's just not a premium lens. However, it makes up for it with its lighter weight and smaller size, so it's very easy to pack. And I think for travel photography, it's really beneficial because you'll end up with a lighter lens that doesn't weigh you too much when you carry it inside your bag, and that's something that's very important for me, especially for travel. And when it comes to image quality, I really think that all of the image I took using this lens is really sharp, it's really contrasty, I don't have any complaints, it's just really nice, and the focal length from 35 to 100 enables me to really compress down on that scenery and try to, kind of exaggerate the background, make the background looks closer and also kind of squish together with the foreground. I really like this lens, I'm really surprised with it. So yeah, my two most used lenses in the New Zealand trip is the 8 to 18 together with the 35 to 100. These two lenses combined together really makes a nice kit for travel photography, for landscape photography. I used to think the king of travel photography is this lens right here, 14 to 140 millimeter f3.5 to f5.6 Panasonic lens. But now I really enjoy using a combination of these two lenses together. By the way, speaking about combination of lenses, you can check this video up here. I talk about some two lenses kit for Micro Four Thirds, and I think you want to check that out as well. By the way, I think you might have noticed that I have a focal length gap between these two lenses. The 8 to 18 can only goes to 18mm and the 35 to 100mm starts at 35mm. So I have a gap between 18 to 35mm. And with that in mind, I actually brought a Panasonic Lumix 20mm f1.7, my favorite everyday photography lens. However, in reality, when I was in New Zealand, this lens was not being used at all. 0%. I didn't take any pictures using this lens. So yeah, if you have any doubt about having a gap between certain focal lengths, especially between a moderate wide angle to a mild telephoto like this one, 18 to 35mm, don't worry about it. I ended up not missing anything between 18mm to 35mm. Now that I've talked about my Micro Four Thirds cameras and lenses, now I want to talk about some of my non-Micro Four Thirds cameras as well as accessories that I brought to New Zealand. First, this guy right here. This is the DJI Pocket 2. This is a really nice video camera with a built-in gimbal, and I use this a lot for vlogging because I can really get a smooth, stable video footage using this camera. And it also comes with a built-in wireless microphone that I use all the time to record great audio. So this is really nice for those POV kind of shots when I was recording tutorials, showing you how I take certain pictures. And yeah, this is such a nice video camera, and I'm really thankful for this camera. This camera gets used a lot in New Zealand. And then also, I brought this guy right here. This is the Insta360 Go-To action camera. This is really useful for recording action sequences, like when I was playing Lush in the Queenstown Gondola Skyline. I used this attached to my chest using the magnetic strap inside my shirt, and I was able to record myself playing Lush. And also for the shot over river jet boat, I used this clip to my head using an attachment that I rent in the shot over jet, and I was able to record the whole 360 thingy going on with the shot over jet boat, and I was really happy using this camera. I don't really use this for day-to-day kind of b-rolls like what I used to do in Iceland, but I'm still happy that I brought this camera. And then speaking of other accessories, I brought my tripod with me. I cannot show to you right now because I'm using that tripod. It's the Sirui T005 aluminum tripod. It's very, very nice. It's not really that heavy. It's perfect for travel. It's not really that big as well, so you cannot really get that high, but it's more than enough for some long exposure shots that I took in New Zealand. And speaking about long exposure shots, I brought a set of filters right here by KNF Concept. I have some ND64s and I have some ND1000s for 6-stop and 10-stop ND filters. So it really helped me to kind of blur the water, make it look smooth, and to help me with some long exposure shots. So now we're at the end of this video, and I just want to mention some key important points that I got from my New Zealand trip. First, let's talk about gear. I'm very happy about my camera selection as well as my lens selection, with the exception of the 20mm, this poor little guy right here. I think I'm quite happy that I'm able to save some weight. I'm only about 1.5 kilograms, so that's not really that heavy, and I was able to pack other things easily inside my carry-on bag. And I was also able to cover so many focal lengths from ultra wide all the way to telephoto with this kit. So I'm quite happy in terms of camera gear selection. However, one thing that I need to be more mindful of is not the camera gear, but the process. I need to learn to slow down. in this New Zealand trip, I was really overwhelmed with the beautiful sceneries all around me, and I really felt so trigger happy about it, and I really want to photograph every single sceneries with my cameras, and that's the problem right there. I ended up feeling rushed, I ended up feeling hectic, and I ended up with way too much pictures. I took so many pictures and it's just overwhelming to me in the end when I got back from the trip. So for my future trip, I want to slow down and I want to learn to pick my shots carefully, be more selective about what I photograph using my camera. Nothing wrong about taking many pictures. Besides, if you don't take many pictures, you'll sometimes miss a beautiful shot, you will miss a beautiful moment, but that's not the point right here. My point is that I want to enjoy photography, not only the result, but also the process itself. I want to enjoy the process of photography, selecting my shots carefully, putting some thoughts, making some decisions about my photographs, and take the pictures and then ended up with a great picture. I want to enjoy the process from the beginning until the end. Hopefully, I will be able to learn my lessons from this New Zealand trip and be able to apply it to my future trip. And that wraps up today's video. So that is all for today's video. I hope that today's video is informative, useful and inspiring to you. And please comment down below what is your travel camera gear, and also if you have any tips for travel photography, please share it down below as well. Also, if you have any questions about this video, feel free to comment down below as well, and I will try my best to answer them. Also, don't forget to support my channel by liking this video, sharing this video and subscribing to my channel down below. Thank you and goodbye.